You won't believe how intense a blind box car opening can get in Russia. Today, they've uncovered a classic from a legendary luxury brand that's over a century old. Keith got a call from a local car enthusiast who said he had a garage that hadn't been opened in years, and inside was a classic car left to him by his grandfather. Keith met up with the guy, and they headed straight for the garage. When they arrived, they found the property was completely dilapidated, with car parts and wreckage strewn everywhere. Even the shipping containers were piled high with junk cars, and today's blind box was inside this red garage. The group gathered in front of the garage and pried open the rusted doors. The first thing they saw was a classic car, completely covered in dust, with spiders, the original inhabitants, crawling all over it. As soon as you see that hood ornament, you know what brand this is. The problem now was that the door opening was too small to get the car out. They had to get the main garage door, which was buried in the dirt, open first. The two guys grabbed shovels and started clearing the dirt away. But they had barely started when one of the shovels broke, giving the bald-headed Keith a major headache. His buddy had no choice but to start digging with his hands, which slowed things down considerably. Meanwhile, the other guy was trying to make an emergency repair to the shovel. With the shovel fixed, they got back to clearing the foundation. Eager to get the car out, the owner joined in to help. And that's when the torment began. The exposed skin of the crew became a feast for a swarm of mosquitoes. At this point, they hadn't yet realized the severity of the problem. After half an hour of hard work, they finally managed to open the garage door, leaving them all exhausted and out of breath. And with the door open, they discovered there weren't one, but two classic cars inside. And this S-Class, the W140, was the real target of their trip. Aside from a thick layer of dust, the car was in remarkably good condition. It had been stored on jack stands to protect it from moisture. The leather seats in the interior showed serious signs of aging, but these minor flaws couldn't diminish the powerful presence of this W140. Keith learned that this S-Class had been sitting here for 18 years. The odometer read about 110,000 kilometers, around 68,000 miles. For Keith, this was an incredibly well-preserved car. The owner told him that since his grandfather passed away a few years ago, the garage had been rarely opened and the car had been sitting ever since. Whether it could still start was a complete mystery. Hearing this, Keith decided to do a quick inspection. He even discovered a set of original Mercedes-Benz wheels hidden under a pile of junk. They continued to check the car's condition. The exterior didn't have any major issues, so they decided to try and move the car out before attempting to start it. They first cleared all the junk blocking the car's path. Then they brought over an air compressor to fill the flat tires. While airing them up, Keith was enduring pure torture. The mosquitoes were relentless, biting any exposed skin. At this point, he could still laugh it off. Later, these bugs would nearly drive the tough-as-nails Russian to a mental breakdown. With the tires full, the crew showed their true Russian strength. They literally manhandled the car and moved it to face the exit. Then they tried to push the massive sedan out of the garage. But no matter how hard they pushed, the car wouldn't budge. In the end, they had to use a tow strap to pull it out. But the W140 was so heavy that the tow strap snapped. They had to resort to using a winch to finally drag the classic Mercedes out into the open. Now the car was perfectly displayed before them. Seeing it, Keith finally breathed a sigh of relief. He was extremely satisfied with the car.
Its luxurious features were still impressive, even by today's standards. The only challenge now was to start the engine that had been dormant for over a decade. They started by removing the air filter housing and found a disconnected pipe inside. Luckily, an inspection revealed no signs of oil leaks, a testament to the previous owner's meticulous care. For a car of this vintage to be so well maintained is incredible. It has very high collector's value. But Keith also knew that owning a classic like this comes with high running costs, which narrows down the potential market for it. Meanwhile, his buddy was pouring lubricant into each of the spark plug holes. They also added fresh fuel to the dry tank. After adding the fuel, they began to crank it. The engine started to turn, making sounds of revival. They tried again, but the engine still wouldn't run properly. This is a common problem with classic cars that have been sitting for a long time. Just getting them started is a major challenge. You can see the engine bay was backfiring like a string of firecrackers with loud popping sounds. At this point, the guys finally couldn't take the mosquito bites anymore. They started dousing themselves in bug spray. But even so, Keith's bald head was covered in bites, driving him absolutely crazy. And just then, the engine finally started. Hearing it run, Keith couldn't help but jeer. After 18 years, this engine was running again. The mood of the group instantly improved. Keith and his buddy high-fived in celebration. The young owner was incredibly impressed with their mechanical skills. He never thought his grandfather's old car would ever start again. And the engine was running incredibly smoothly. They quickly added coolant. Now it was time to negotiate the price. The young owner started at 300,000 rubles. Keith pointed out the car's pros and cons, and they finally settled on a price of 250,000 rubles, about 2,700 USD. With the price agreed upon, Keith and his buddy did a final check of the engine, spending another half hour to make sure everything was sorted. Now it was time to drive their classic Mercedes home. They were both ecstatic to have gotten such a classic car for that price. This was an absolute gem of a find. Once it's fully detailed and restored, its value will surely double. Their first stop was a tire shop to have the original wheels they found in the garage mounted with new tires. With the factory wheels on, the S-Class's presence was instantly elevated. Next was a thorough cleaning. After the wash, the paint and interior regained their former glory. Seeing it on the road now, would you ever guess this was the same classic car that had been abandoned for 18 years? Do you think the 250,000 rubles was money well spent? Does watching this make you want to go out and find a classic car of your own? Let us know in the comments.